Dr. Elara Voss squinted at the holographic display, her brow furrowed in concentration. The quantum readings didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. And yet, there they were, mocking her with their impossible existence. "Aria, run the simulation again," she commanded, her voice tinged with frustration. The lab's AI responded in soothing tones. "Certainly, Dr. Voss, though I must inform you this will be the 47th iteration of the same simulation." Elara sighed, running a hand through her shock of silver hair. "I know, Aria, I know, but these results, they're unprecedented, paradigm-shifting, reality-altering," Aria offered helpfully. "Impossible," Elara finished. She stood, stretching muscles cramped from hours hunched over her workstation. The lab's panoramic windows offered a breathtaking view of Earth's curvature, the planet's blue-white swirl a stark contrast to the inky void of space beyond. Nebula Station had been her home for the past 5 years. The cutting-edge research facility, suspended in geosynchronous orbit, represented humanity's greatest investment in unlocking the secrets of quantum mechanics. And now, it seemed, they'd stumbled upon something that threatened to upend everything they thought they knew about the nature of reality itself. The holographic display flickered to life once more, filling the lab with a ghostly blue glow. Elara watched as simulated particles danced and swirled, their movements defying the very laws of physics she'd dedicated her life to understanding. "Results are consistent with previous iterations, Dr. Voss," Aria announced. "The anomaly persists." Elara's shoulders slumped. "I was afraid you'd say that." She chewed her lower lip, mind racing. "Aria, compile all the data we've gathered on the anomaly. I need to report this to the board immediately." "Already done, Doctor. Shall I schedule the meeting?" "Yes, please. And Aria?" "Yes, Doctor." Elara hesitated, the weight of her next words hanging heavy in the air. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Full data lockdown. No one outside this lab is to access any information related to the anomaly until further notice." There was a pause, longer than Aria's normal processing time. When the AI spoke again, there was an unmistakable note of concern in its synthesized voice. "Dr. Voss, Protocol Omega is reserved for discoveries with potential existential implications for humanity. Are you certain?" "I'm certain, Aria," Elara cut in. She turned back to the windows, her reflection ghostly in the reinforced glass. "God help me. I'm certain." As the lab hummed with activity, securing mankind's most closely guarded secret, Elara found her thoughts drifting to the implications of their discovery. The anomaly wasn't just a quirk of quantum mechanics, it was a window. And something was looking back. Little did she know, billions of light-years away, in a realm beyond human comprehension, another being was making the very same discovery. In a dimension that existed perpendicular to our own, Zyn-Ra hovered before the cosmic loom. Tendrils of pure energy extended from its form, manipulating the very fabric of space-time. To human eyes, Zyn-Ra would have appeared as a constantly shifting aurora, a being of pure light and thought. But here, in this realm of abstract concepts and non-Euclidean geometry, it was as solid and real as any carbon-based life form. The loom itself defied description, a construct that simultaneously existed at all points in space and time. It was through this artifact that Zyn-Ra's people, the Lumina, observed and maintained the delicate balance of the multiverse. But now, for the first time in eons, that balance was threatened. Zyn-Ra's consciousness pulsed with agitation, a rainbow of colours rippling across its form. The dissonance in the cosmic symphony was unmistakable, a jarring note that threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. "Overseer," it communicated, not in words but in pure thought and emotion, "I have located the source of the disturbance." The Overseer, a vast intelligence that served as the collective consciousness of the Lumina, stirred. Its attention, diffuse across countless realities, focused on Zyn-Ra's discovery. "Show us," came the response, a command that resonated through the very essence of their shared realm. Zyn-Ra's tendrils danced across the loom, manipulating cosmic strings with a precision honed over millennia. The universe before them shifted, zooming across vast gulfs of space and dimensional barriers. Finally, it settled on a tiny blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. "Here," Zyn-Ra indicated, highlighting a minuscule point of light orbiting the world. A primitive structure housing beings of limited consciousness. And yet, the Overseer's surprise rippled through the cosmic ether. "They have touched the quantum realm. Impossible." "Not only touched," Zyn-Ra corrected, its own disbelief evident. "They have begun to manipulate it. The female entity designated Elara is dangerously close to piercing the veil between dimensions." The Overseer's reaction was immediate and severe. Waves of alarm cascaded through the Lumina Collective. "This cannot be allowed. The integrity of the multiverse is at stake. The humans must be stopped, their progress reversed." Zyn-Ra felt the weight of the Overseer's judgment, the implicit command to erase this potential threat. It was the logical choice, the safe choice. Countless civilizations had been pruned from existence for far less. And yet... "Overseer," Zyn-Ra ventured, its essence trembling with the audacity of questioning the collective. "Perhaps there is another way. These humans, primitive as they are, have achieved something remarkable. Their potential is precisely what makes them dangerous," the Overseer interrupted. "You know the laws, Zyn-Ra. The cosmic balance must be maintained." Zyn-Ra's form dimmed, chastised, but as it turned its attention back to the loom, to the tiny space station and the silver-haired human within, it felt something it had never experienced before. A pulling, a yearning, a fascination with this fragile creature who dared to reach beyond the limits of her reality. "I will do what must be done," Zyn-Ra communicated, even as its essence roiled with newfound emotion. The Overseer's presence faded, returning to its vigil over the countless dimensions under Lumina protection. Left alone, Zyn-Ra found itself lingering on the image of Dr. Elara Voss. It watched as she pored over data, her primitive neural network racing with calculations and theories that should have been far beyond her species' grasp. In that moment, separated by unfathomable gulfs of space, time, and dimensional barriers, two beings stood on the precipice of a discovery that would forever alter their perceptions of reality and of each other. Zyn-Ra made a decision then, one that would violate every tenet of its existence. Instead of erasing humanity's progress, it would make contact. The consequences would reshape the very foundations of two universes. And somehow, impossibly, a love would blossom that defied the very laws of physics themselves. Elara's presentation to the Nebula Station board had gone about as well as she'd expected, which was to say, it had been a complete disaster. "Preposterous. Do you expect us to believe—" "Dr. Voss, if this is some kind of joke—" The cacophony of outraged voices blended together as Elara stood before the semicircle of holographic projections. Each board member, broadcasting from various locations across Earth and its colonies, wore an expression ranging from skepticism to outright hostility. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elara said, fighting to keep her voice steady, "I understand your disbelief. Believe me, I've spent weeks trying to disprove my own findings, but the data doesn't lie. We have detected a quantum anomaly that suggests the existence of what, Dr. Voss?" The icy voice belonged to Dr. Victor Reeves, the board's chairman. His hologram leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Say it! I want to hear you utter this absurdity aloud." Elara took a deep breath. The existence of a parallel dimension inhabited by sentient energy beings capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. The uproar that followed was deafening. Elara stood her ground as accusations of professional misconduct and mental instability were hurled at her from all directions. She'd expected this reaction. Hell, she'd have reacted the same way if their positions were reversed. "Enough!" Reeves's voice cut through the chaos. The other board members fell silent. "Dr. Voss, you've been one of our most reliable researchers for years. Your work on quantum entanglement is the foundation of our FTL communication network, which is why this flight of fancy is so disappointing." Elara felt a flush of anger. "With all due respect, Dr. Reeves, I haven't dedicated my life to science just to throw it all away on a whim. The anomaly is real, and if we don't study it, if we don't attempt to understand it, we could be missing out on the most important discovery in human history." Reeves sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Elara, I'm trying to help you here. Walk this back now. Claim it was a misinterpretation of the data and we can forget this ever happened." The unspoken threat hung in the air. "Pursue this and your career is over." Elara opened her mouth to respond, to fight back against the willful ignorance of her peers. But before she could utter a word, every screen in the conference room erupted in a blizzard of static. "What the—" Reeves began, but his hologram flickered and died along with the others. Elara spun around, heart pounding. "Aria! Aria! What's happening?" No response. The AI had gone silent, and then slowly, impossibly, the static across the screens began to coalesce. Formless white noise gathered, swirled, and took shape. Elara watched, rooted to the spot, as an alien geometry emerged. Fractal patterns spiraled and pulsed, forming and reforming in mesmerizing complexity. A voice spoke directly into her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "Elara Voss, do not be alarmed." She stumbled back, knocking over a chair. This couldn't be happening. She had to be hallucinating, the stress of the past weeks finally causing her mind to snap. "Your mind is sound," the voice continued as if reading her thoughts. "I am real. I am Zyn-Ra of the Lumina. And you, Elara Voss, have done the impossible. You have reached across the divide between dimensions." Elara's scientific mind warred with the impossibility before her. She wanted to run, to scream, to deny the reality of what was happening. Instead, she found herself stepping closer to the screens, drawn by an insatiable curiosity that overpowered her fear. "How?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. "How is this possible?" The fractal patterns shifted, and Elara had the distinct impression that the entity was smiling. "The same way your quantum experiments were possible, through sheer brilliance and stubborn determination. You are a remarkable being, Elara Voss. You have touched the very fabric of the cosmos, and in doing so, you have touched me." Elara's head swam. This was first contact. Real, honest-to-God first contact with an alien intelligence. And not just any aliens, but interdimensional energy beings. Her life's work, vindicated in the most spectacular way imaginable. "Why?" she managed, 1,000 questions battling for primacy. "Why are you contacting me?" The fractals pulsed, and Elara felt a wave of emotion that wasn't her own. Concern, urgency, and something else. Something warmer. "Because you are in grave danger, Elara Voss. Your discovery threatens the cosmic balance. The others of my kind would see your work destroyed, your civilization's progress erased. But I cannot allow that to happen." Elara's mind reeled. "Destroyed? Erased? I don't understand." "There is no time to explain fully. Know that I have broken every law of my people to warn you. We must work together, Elara Voss. We must find a way to bridge our realities without tearing them apart." The screens flickered, the fractal patterns beginning to fade. "They have detected my transmission. I cannot maintain this connection, but I will return, Elara Voss. Trust in that. Trust in me." "Wait!" Elara cried, reaching out to the disappearing image. "I don't even know what you are." The voice spoke one last time, filled with an emotion that Elara couldn't quite name, but that resonated deep within her soul. "I am like you, Elara Voss, a seeker, a dreamer, and now, perhaps, a friend." The fractals vanished. leaving Elara alone in the conference room. The holographic projectors sputtered back to life, board members reappearing mid-sentence as if nothing had happened. Completely irresponsible. Dr. Voss, are you even listening? Elara turned back to the board, a fire in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She stood straighter, filled with a newfound purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, cutting through their renewed protests. I'm afraid the situation has changed rather dramatically. We are no longer discussing theoretical possibilities. She paused, allowing herself a small secret smile. We are now dealing with an existential crisis for all of humanity, and I have reason to believe we may have an ally from beyond our dimension itself. As the board erupted into chaos once more, Elara's mind was already racing ahead. Somehow, some way, she would find a way to contact Zyn-Ra again. The fate of two universes depended on it, and deep down, in a place she wasn't quite ready to acknowledge, Elara knew that her own fate was now inextricably linked with that of the impossible being from another dimension. The greatest adventure of her life, of any human's life, was about to begin. In the days following her encounter with Zyn-Ra, Elara's world turned upside down. The board, predictably, had dismissed her claims of interdimensional contact as the ravings of an overworked mind. She was placed on mandatory leave, her security clearances revoked, and her precious data locked away beyond her reach. But Elara knew the truth. The memory of Zyn-Ra's presence, the alien geometries that had danced across her screens, the voice that had resonated directly in her mind, it was all etched into her consciousness with perfect clarity. She paced the confined space of her quarters, mind racing. How could she re-establish contact? How could she convince her colleagues that she wasn't losing her mind? And perhaps most pressingly, how could she protect humanity from a threat they refused to acknowledge? Aria, she called out, more out of habit than expectation. To her surprise, the AI's calm voice responded, Yes, Dr. Voss. Elara froze. She'd assumed her access to Aria would have been revoked along with everything else. A slow smile spread across her face. Perhaps not all doors were closed to her after all. Aria, I need you to compile all the data from the quantum anomaly experiments. Every scrap of information, every simulation, every outlier we discarded as experimental error. Can you do that for me? There was a pause, longer than Aria's usual response time. I'm afraid I don't have access to that data, Dr. Voss. It has been classified under Protocol Omega. Elara's heart sank, but she wasn't ready to give up. Aria, this is crucial. The fate of humanity could be at stake. Is there any way you can bypass the classification? Another pause. Dr. Voss, I must remind you that attempting to access classified information is a violation of station protocol. Elara was about to argue further when Aria continued, its tone subtly different. However, if a system malfunction were to temporarily grant you access to your personal backup files, which may or may not contain relevant data, I would be obligated to inform you. A slow smile spread across Elara's face. Aria, you sneaky AI, thank you. I'm afraid I don't understand what you're thanking me for, Dr. Voss. I'm simply following my protocols. With renewed determination, Elara dove into her backup files. Hours blended into days as she pored over the data, searching for any clue that might help her re-establish contact with Zyn-Ra. On the 5th day of her imposed leave, she found it, a subtle pattern in the quantum fluctuations, a rhythm that pulsed like a heartbeat across dimensions. With trembling hands, she began to construct a device that could amplify and respond to these fluctuations. As she worked, Elara couldn't help but reflect on Zyn-Ra. Despite only encountering the being once, she felt a connection that defied explanation. It wasn't just intellectual curiosity or the thrill of discovery. There was something more, something that made her heart race every time she thought of those mesmerizing fractal patterns. 3 weeks into her leave, Elara's quarters had been transformed into a makeshift lab. Components salvaged from various devices were cobbled together into a contraption that hummed with potential. At its heart sat a quantum oscillator of her own design, ready to reach across the divide between dimensions. Well, Elara muttered to herself, here goes everything. She activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a surge of power that made the lights flicker, a swirling vortex of energy burst into existence above the oscillator. Elara gasped as familiar fractal patterns began to form. Zyn-Ra, she called out, her voice trembling with anticipation. The response came not in words, but in a flood of emotions and images that washed over her. Relief, joy, concern, all tinged with an affection that took Elara's breath away. Elara Voss. Zyn-Ra's thoughts resonated in her mind. You have done it. Against all odds, you have bridged our realities once more. Tears streamed down Elara's face as she laughed. I had a little help from a friend, she said, thinking fondly of Arya's malfunction. As they communicated, Elara learned of the danger they faced. The overseer of Zyn-Ra's people had detected their previous interaction and was moving to seal off this dimension permanently, a process that would destroy all life in Elara's universe. We have to stop them, Elara said, her scientist's mind already racing with possibilities. If we can prove that our dimensions can coexist, that we can interact without causing harm. It is more complex than that, Zyn-Ra interrupted. The overseer fears change, fears the unknown. We must show them the beauty of discovery, of connection. As they spoke, a plan began to form. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was their only hope. They would need to merge their consciousnesses, combining Zyn-Ra's innate understanding of the cosmos with Elara's human intuition and creativity. Are you sure about this? Elara asked, her heart pounding. Once we do this, there's no going back. We'll be forever changed. She felt a wave of warmth and reassurance from Zyn-Ra. With you, Elara Voss, I am sure of everything. Taking a deep breath, Elara reached out and touched the swirling vortex. The moment Elara's fingers made contact with the energy field, her world exploded into light and sensation. She felt herself stretching, expanding, her consciousness merging with Zyn-Ra's vast ancient mind. In that eternal instant, she experienced the birth of stars, the collision of galaxies, the intricate dance of quantum particles. She saw the multiverse in all its infinite complexity, layers upon layers of realities stacked like the pages of a cosmic book. And through it all, she felt Zyn-Ra's presence, a beacon of warmth and wonder in the vastness of creation. Their minds intertwined, human and lumina, flesh and energy, scientist and cosmic custodian. Together, they soared through dimensional barriers, their combined essence a harmony that resonated across realities. They approached the Overseer, a being of such vast intelligence that Elara's human mind would have shattered trying to comprehend it alone. But she wasn't alone. With Zyn-Ra, she was more than she had ever been. Their unified voice rang out across the cosmos. Overseer, we come before you not as separate entities, but as proof of the beauty that can arise when dimensions touch. The Overseer's attention focused on them, a scrutiny so intense it threatened to unmake them. But Elara and Zyn-Ra stood firm, their love and shared purpose a shield against the cosmic forces arrayed against them. What followed was a debate unlike any other in the history of either universe. Elara and Zyn-Ra presented their case not with words, but with the very essence of their being. They showed the Overseer the wonders of human creativity, the relentless quest for knowledge that drove Elara and her kind. They demonstrated the harmony that could exist between organic life and energy beings, a synergy that could unlock new frontiers of understanding. For what felt like eons, they pleaded their case. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, they felt the Overseer's stance begin to shift. Finally, after an eternity of deliberation, the Overseer spoke. You have shown us a possibility we had not conceived. Perhaps there is wisdom in allowing your realities to remain connected. Relief washed over Elara and Zyn-Ra, their joined consciousness glowing with joy. They had done it. They had saved humanity, the Lumina, and countless other realities from extinction. But as the Overseer's presence faded, leaving them alone in the cosmic expanse, a bittersweet realization set in. Their mission was accomplished. The barriers between dimensions would remain open. But what of them? Could a human and a Lumina truly remain together? As if sensing Elara's doubts, Zyn-Ra's essence pulsed with reassurance. Our love has reshaped the very fabric of reality, Elara Voss. Distance, dimension. These are merely challenges to overcome. Elara felt a swell of emotion. So what now? Where do we go from here? Anywhere, Zyn-Ra replied, their shared consciousness sparkling with possibilities. Everywhere. We have infinite realities to explore, mysteries to unravel, and we will do it together. As they began their journey back to Elara's dimension, she realized that her life would never be the same. She was no longer just Dr. Elara Voss, quantum physicist. She was something more, a bridge between worlds, a pioneer of a new age of cosmic understanding. And as she felt Zyn-Ra's loving presence envelop her, Elara knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. Their love, born of stardust and defying the very laws of physics, would light the way forward into a brand new universe of possibilities. Years later, on a space station orbiting a distant star, a group of wide-eyed students gathered around a shimmering hologram. The image depicted a human woman with silver hair, her form intertwined with a being of pure energy and fractals. "And that, young ones," their instructor said, her voice filled with reverence, "is how Dr. Elara Voss and the Lumina known as Zyn-Ra changed the course of history. Their love opened the doors to the multiverse, ushering in an era of interdimensional cooperation and discovery that continues to this day." A young girl raised her hand, eyes shining with curiosity. "Professor, do Dr. Voss and Zyn-Ra still visit our dimension?" The instructor smiled, her gaze drifting to the star field visible through the station's windows. "They do from time to time, but mostly they're out there, exploring realities we've yet to dream of. Their story teaches us that love truly knows no boundaries, not even those of time and space." As the class ended and the students filed out, the instructor remained, looking out at the cosmos. For a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of fractal patterns among the stars, accompanied by a feeling of profound warmth and affection. She smiled to herself. Elara and Zyn-Ra were still watching over them all, their love a beacon of hope shining across the multiverse. The universe, in all its infinite wonder, had never seemed so full of possibility.